Hi, Paul. How are you?
Hi, Jacqueline. How are you?
I'm good. I just set up my fancy schmancy mic stand. So now I'm part of the 21st century as well as you, because instead of
Oh,
having my broken mic stand try to make my keep my mic up, so now I have it floating in front of me.
good.
Very exciting.
Welcome to the 21st century. I'm on the
Welcome. Yes.
Luddite welcoming committee.
Yes, incredible. I've joined the club finally. I will walk us through last week's headlines. We're going to be talking in more depth about two of the stories, basically, so I'm not going to go into too much detail right now. But our cover story was about the ACS 2026, basically cancer statistics report. It's the journal article, the manuscript itself is called Cancer Statistics, 2026. And then there's also a consumer-friendly companion as well that came out. And we wrote about the report as we do often. But this year was pretty interesting because it kind of sparked a conversation about endpoints and metrics and how we measure our progress basically against cancer. But the sort of tagline headline was that there was, for the first time, a 70%, 5-year survival for all cancers combined. So it's a really we'll dive into it. It's a very exciting stat. Just to give a little bit of a teaser, overall mortality also declined. So
That's the important one.
yeah, that's the important one. And then story two was about a paper that found that the new Medicaid work requirements could lead to 1.6 missed cancer screenings over 2 years.
Wait, how many? 1.6 million, you mean?
Did I say 1.6?
Yes. Just want to make sure that we don't have to run a correction later.
It's like his whole paper comes out and it's just 1.6 screenings missed.
Do you have coffee, by the way? Just checking. Do they have coffee in Maine?
They do, but not in this room, unfortunately. So yes, 1.6 million missed cancer screenings over the first 2 years following the implementation of the work requirements. And then we had a guest editorial about the sort of concepts of safe and effective versus reasonable and necessary by Mark Rattain and David Hyman about how basically a pitch for curbing excessive dosing. And then we had a guest editorial by Kevin King of City of Hope Chicago about early detection in lung cancer. And then we had another obituary of Ben Son, an immunologist whose work led to the development of Polivy. So he was 89. So we can circle back to our cover story and second story. I feel like those were sort of intertwined throughout the week. It was kind of an interesting, editorially, I feel like it was an interesting week. It definitely evolved over the course of the week. I think when we first sort of got the ACS report, and Sarah, who wrote the story to Medicaid screening story, they seemed really like thematically tied. Here's this like exciting milestone for oncology as 1.6 cancer screenings are going to be missed or projected to be missed. And then it kind of changed over the course. I mean, that's still there, but I think that our editorial focus kind of shifted as we were reporting on it. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Paul?
Yeah. No, it's called the outbreak of news.
Yeah.
You deal with it. Like an outbreak of disease, so you have to just be there for to tend to it. But the ACS thing is really interesting because it's an annual event that American Cancer Society publishes its cancer statistics, and how do you do it in a way that doesn't put people to sleep from just, okay, so it's like watching grass grow. And it's really, really important that every year since 1991, cancer mortality has dropped by a little bit. And it did again. Now, mortality is a good metric, age-adjusted mortality. As far as survival, well, that's not so good. And in this case, they decided to go with this statistic, which is kind of unexplained, that shows that 70% survival is now happening in cancer. Does it mean that people are living longer? No, not necessarily, even though they are based on mortality numbers.
Yeah.
So I was just looking at the mortality number, and then we just talked to them, and they were very open about it, that is a point that they considered to be a milestone. I think a lot of people would disagree that it's a milestone, but it is a milestone that mortality went down.
Yeah.
Thank God for that. So basically now mortality dropped by about 33% since 1991, more than 30%. So about a third. That's pretty good. So that's where and nobody. Well, there is some discussion about why it's happening, but then maybe we should just let's keep going on that one. And then, of course, story 2 combines with this story because it shows that screenings are going to be dropped.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly how many, and it's a very interesting story to see what the actual projections would be.
Do you want to? I mean, I'm just curious about if this is something you think would be interesting to our readers. The question that I asked you on Friday about the paper. So just to give listeners a little bit more actual data from the paper to orient you. Basically, it's the JAMA oncology paper that was looking at the new Medicaid work, the impact of the new Medicaid work requirements included in President Donald Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And so it could result in as many as 1.6 missed screenings for breast, colon, and lung cancers in the first 2 years. But there's an expected loss of coverage for an estimated 1.5 million to 10.2 million Americans following the new work requirements. Medicaid covers around 70 million. And so I guess the key thing here, and I got to scroll down basically to it. So the researchers estimate that basically over 500,000 mammograms, over 900,000 colorectal screening tests, and 92,000 lung cancer screenings would be missed in the first 2 years. And there is some wonkiness with the data. That's the worst of 3 scenarios that the researchers focused on based on previous sort of examples of this happening in state coverage. But basically, as you get further and further down, right? So then it's over the next over 2 years, these missed screenings that I just explained are projected to result in basically 1,500 undetected breast cancers, about 1,000 colorectal cancers, and a little over 700 lung cancers. And basically my punchline basically is these missed screenings are predicted to result in 213 excess deaths, the paper states. And I think as a reporter of all of this stuff, I was a little surprised by that number kind of just appearing small. And I came to my lowly, not lowly, the opposite, my esteemed editor to explain.
Lowly is better.
No,
I much prefer lowly.
I came as a lowly
low life is better. Do that.
I'm not going to stop you from identifying how you want to identify, but I don't think you're low life.
I don't care. It's just, I'm old enough. I can deal with any
your explanation of sort of how to wrap your head around that basically was really, really helpful for me. So I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot, and I don't know that is something you want to be a authority on. But I'm
certainly not I'm not an epidemiologist, but it's pretty straightforward. What they did was they looked at the drop in screenings and so forth that was observed in Arkansas. Is that correct? When
yes.
When work requirement was instituted. And then they looked at the sort of the highs and the lows and produced this nifty tables with 3 scenarios of what could happen. And it's kind of a wall of numbers that we kind of cleaned up a little bit. but it is worth looking at. But I mean, really, it's pretty straightforward. You need to do. You're talking about screening, screening just population levels, large populations for diseases that may affect some of them, and so you have to qualify for the screening too. So you're looking at subsets of subsets of subsets eventually.
Yeah.
For screens that they have a sufficiently high grade from USPSTF, I presume. That's how they probably do that. So, for example, look at lung screening. You have to meet the requirement for that screening. So, there's the number of screens. If you look at that kind of a number of population losing coverage, how many of them meet the criteria for, say, lung screening or colon or breast? So
100%. I think that was, maybe I was just having a brain fart on Friday. I'm, reflecting, maybe that is what this is, but I think I was just kind of conflating in my head Medicaid and Medicare. I was like, oh, like screenings are so important, but Medicare, almost everybody on Medicare is, I guess I'll just say almost everybody to be careful, but qualifies for screening. So almost every individual for appropriate screening, or at least let's even just say
I don't
just
qualify
screening
for lung screening, for example.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to say, like
breast cancer screening, I don't think.
But colon cancer screening, you do.
Colon cancer screening, I do qualify for.
And so absolutely. I think it's fair to say that like most.
And I'm not on Medicaid, by the way.
You're not on Medicaid?
I'm on Medicare.
Yes,
I'm old enough for that. Now you got that bit of information out of me. So you call me a lowlife, and now you learned that I'm an old lowlife.
Now I'm breaking like HIPAA laws, basically.
What you're doing. Yeah, no, I'm making my own disclosures. So no crime is committed.
Crazy.
I'm the idiot. There's another one.
Oh my gosh, we could just like keep a tally. That'll be in our description this week. In this episode, Paul was called a lowlife, an idiot.
Old.
Yeah. No, but I just think that on Friday when you said, like that the Medicaid population, like, it's 70 million people, which is already a small subset of the US, and then
it's not that small.
Well, true, but it's a subset still. And then it's like the people who are being affected by the work requirements is a smaller subset than the people who are affected by the work requirements who actually would require screening appropriately. These three screenings at least. Qualify for them, and then also who would then have a cancer that's caught.
Multiple subsets.
Yeah, so that was just helpful.
You're not dealing with a huge number.
100%.
Of deaths, but hey, screen the people from
Exactly. And that's, I will say one of the authors on the paper had a quote about this that I think, we don't need to be the ones to say it. I'll just let him say it. But basically he said, keeping it in perspective, we model out only really 2 years of this policy. We projected 447 cancers that would be diagnosed at an advanced stage that otherwise would have been caught earlier. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but that's really only 2 years of data, and cancer is for the most part a slow progressive disease. The fact that we saw a very robust, relatively large signal even within just 2 years was quite astonishing to us. It is, and I think I'm with you kind of, it's like, regardless of how, what these numbers look like, why? It's screening. It's proven to improve outcomes.
So I think an interesting piece of it, which is why these stories it's a good idea you just had to talk about these stories together. Because in the first story, Arif Kamal, who's the chief patient officer of ACS, makes a very important point, which is that it's not just the patients, it's also the caregivers
who are
missing, days and so forth. And that's a whole other issue, which is very much related. It's really the same issue, but the work requirements. I don't know what that actually does, what it teaches anyone, what's the point. But
I know.
Hey, I'm not a policy maker.
Yeah,
So.
but that was really fascinating to me. I can try to get his quotes up a little bit. But yeah, we were interviewing Kamal for our story, and yes, we asked him one of Sarah's questions since we had him on the line. It was perfect. But yeah, he made this really, I think, again, maybe this is obvious to people who sort of are in this space more often, but to me, it was just very like eye-opening, I guess, the comment about caregivers, just because like even if I think about like my family, like I know people who are caregivers, and they're not even, trying to necessarily get into the Medicaid requirements, like all just, the idea of caregiving and how important it is for survival outcomes. And there was something that really stuck with me about it was he said this. This is Kamal. He said, the other concern is how many patients who are eligible for CAR T, ADCs, or transplants aren't going to get those treatments because their caregiver has this terrible choice to make about continuing to work or taking time to be the caregiver. That was super interesting to me because, I mean, we talk about the fact that obviously we love new effective therapies, who wouldn't, but as we get into more and more specialized therapies, how that's going to impact equity, that's just a conversation we've always talked about. And I think that this is just another iteration of that I hadn't yet thought about, that literally, like, if patients don't have a dedicated, attentive caregiver, they cannot, like, I don't know, it's just another facet of the craziness that I think I was exposed to with Kamal's comments.
Yeah, no, it was very interesting. Couple of stories, but go back to questions about epidemiology and screening. That's a theme that we at the Cancer Letter rejoice in.
I was wondering if it wasn't you and me working on this story, how it would have been different potentially. Because I was looking back, I was like, wow, we really got to nerd out about our endpoints.
Yeah. Well, you would miss it. The entire, I don't know anybody else who would have covered that story in this way.
Oh my God, no. And
I hope other people would be happy to show them. And there are lots of people who would be delighted to show them. And actually, a lot of people do show them.
Yeah.
But it's just the coverage of screening is pretty poor.
I mean, it's a tricky topic. Yeah,
I think there was this incredible quote in the first story, the ACS story, from Otis Brawley, who's the former chief medical officer of the American Cancer Society, and a friend of mine, and he and I wrote a book together once, which was largely or partly about screening. But here he had a very specific point to make, and if you could read it, that would be pretty good. But try to read it as Otis. Try to do his voice. Okay.
I think I'm gonna respectfully. I think
the people of America are listening. Go ahead.
I'm gonna very respectfully decline that request. I'm sorry. I'm not going to do that. But
you don't want to sound like Otis Brawley?
I would love to sound like him.
I would sound like Otis Brawley.
Of course.
But I can't. I've got this Russian accent.
I don't know what I have. New Jersey accent. But
well, there you go. Read it with a New Jersey accent.
There you go. No. Okay. To the epidemiologist, survival is not always a good proxy for progress. So this is kind of what we were talking about earlier. For example, the ACS press release notes that the 5-year survival of liver cancer patients has gone from 7 to 22%. They do not note that mortality from liver cancer increased by 50% during that same period. That quote, I feel like, really just captures the whole story, and the whole, like, gist of the whole topic is that, of course we're happy, potentially we're optimistic and excited about something like a 70-year survival rate for all cancers combined. It's potentially exciting, but it could also be incredibly misleading, as in this case. Or just not even misleading, just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm given a drink, I will not discuss the length time bias, the lead time bias, and the Will Rogers effect. And this is not yet. This is the morning, but later. For a drink, I will not discuss these things. But most people, most of the media really can't get that point, and it's really. But hey. That said, I'm really happy to see this this metric, however, whatever it is, because there's another metric undergirding it, which I think it's not actually. There's another metric. It has nothing to do with it, probably. That says it just keeps on dropping, and it's like watching grass grow, and that's boring and doesn't create big stories. But
and also doesn't reach the public as well, or like doesn't impact the public in the same way. It doesn't communicate that same sort of. It doesn't resonate with them, I guess I'll say.
Well, what does a 0.5% drop?
Exactly.
In mortality mean to you? It's over time a lot.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. It's like it's meant to deal with reality and actual probabilities and numbers and those things versus our brain and our intuition and our how we experience the world. Those things are just like not quite compatible. So we have to kind of keep those in our head. I was wondering if maybe if you have anything else to say, Paul, I'll let you do it. But I was thinking we could maybe end on Dehut's quote about basically why they chose it and their sort of thought about it. But before I do that, I wanted to see.
No, this is a good line, and he does accept. I mean, he's not arguing. What we pointed out. We're just doing our job. And
exactly.
So
yeah. He says changes in mortality is a better endpoint more broadly, right? So we're all on the same page. The issue with 5-year survival, he said, we all know is related to time of diagnosis. So if you wind up seeing any massive amounts of early detection work, let's take prostate cancer, for example. If you find very early stage cancers, it's going to skew your 5-year survival. However, he goes on, for an individual to tell you, okay, if you're diagnosed with cancer tomorrow in all cancers, that there's about a 7 out of 10 chance that you'll be walking around assuming something else doesn't happen in 5 years, he said. And I think that's a number to the general public that means more than changes in mortality, which I would agree is a more meaningful number when we think about going forward as far as health policy and otherwise. So I think that's kind of the point, is that, they have this annual statistics report. We got a 1% drop in mortality. It's objectively good news by the gold standard metric. How do we create some relatively deserved fanfare is kind of how I see it. I don't know if that's maybe a overstep, but I think 70% survival in terms of not metaphor, but like in terms of narrative structure for the general public, I think is definitely an accessible and resonant finding.
If this is becoming kind of a Jewish goodbye because I want to add something to this.
No, please.
We're signing off, but we're not leaving. But what I would also add to this is that most of that drop in mortality is occurring because of people not smoking as much as they used to. So that's pretty great. But there was also something else happening, and that was visible in about 5-6 years ago, when the slope of the mortality curve from lung cancer started to drop. I mean, it started to drop much faster than it had been, somewhat faster than it had been in the past. And that could very well be the effect of newer therapies for lung cancer. So it was started kind of to get seen. And that's great.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad you said that because I'm not as familiar with that. And that's a very exciting, that's exciting. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Paul. I'm glad we got to nerd out a little together. And
this is always fun.
Always fun. And what kind of time is it, Paul?
What kind of time? My. Thank you. It's a great time to be a journalist.
I promised I would cue you up, and I did. My job is done. Thanks, Paul.
Bye.